the curiosity is continued. Like, why does, for adults, alcohol have the premium on joy? Why does it have the premium on play? Why is this depressant what we use to celebrate important moments instead of just remembering and being fully like present in these special celebratory moments? What is it? I used to think that drinking, or not even just drinking, like socializing with alcohol, like these, like trying to replicate these pictures of everyone cheersing and like this this version or definition of joy. Like I felt like I spent so much of my life striving for that. And I started recognizing the real contradiction. And well, why would I take something that is numbing to my experience in these moments where I really want to be present?
Welcome to She Chose Joy with Melanie, where we discuss all things love, freedom, wellness, and joy. I'm your host, Melanie Foote-Davis, also known as the Soul Whisperer. Whitney Dawn Pyles spent years of numbing and disconnecting from herself. Her sobriety journey sparked a deep devotion to authenticity, nervous system literacy, and joy as a radical choice. Now, although sobriety is the topic used for this conversation, this episode is really an invitation to become lovingly curious about social norms and who or what influence your practices. And in what ways do they contribute to your overall sense of safety and well being? So let's dive in. Welcome to She Chose Joy, Whitney.
Thank you, Melanie. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. So, to my listeners, if only you could be a fly on the wall today, because Whitney and I have had way too much fun before the call. So let me just say joy is totally present here. Whitney, I was looking at the calendar, my husband and I are just really trying to see what other trips we haven't planned for the year, all of these other different things. And so I was just thinking, like reflecting back, what we have done this year already. And so I'm curious to know, is there any specific event or experience or anything that's happened for you this year that really stands out or that you just have deep appreciation for?
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah. Something came to mind for that. So last fall, my husband and I moved from Michigan. We lived in Michigan for about 4 years, and we moved from Michigan to Columbus, Ohio. And we had actually moved, we lived in West Michigan for most of that, but had briefly moved to Northern Michigan. And so a little further away from our community and close friends. But when we left Michigan, we had this big going away party and all this, and saw as many people as we could see, and then got on the road and moved to Ohio. And so just last month in July, we went back to Michigan for the first time since we moved away. We went back for 10 days and just got to see so many. We had a beautiful, thriving community there, great friendships there, wonderful people that witnessed us become parents for the first time. And so we got to see a lot of people, and it culminated with a friend's yoga festival the final weekend we were there. And just that whole trip was so wonderful. I will say it was joy filled and also grief filled. And it has had me thinking about, when we moved away, there was this excitement about going to a new place, and there was just a long to-do list of things that we had to do on both ends.
Yeah.
And it was so both wonderful and challenging to be back in this place with these people that we love so much, and just be present with that experience and with those relationships and conversations and connections. And it was really wonderful. And I think what I'm really taking with me from the summer, I certainly experienced at that yoga festival. So, as a somatic coach and facilitator, I work with people one on one and in groups, both virtually and in person. And I also host
Mm.
workshops, dance and movement based workshops, and more awareness and connection based workshops. All of it really grounded in connecting with ourselves and one another authentically. And so at this yoga festival, I was facilitating a couple different movement and dance experience, freeform movement and dance experiences. And the festivals I get to do over the summer are such a unique opportunity to blend my professional and personal life. So this summer we went to two different festivals, one called Playthink down in Kentucky, as well as my friend's Wild Zen Yoga Fest, which was in Michigan last month. And in both of those experiences, I get to go for my work and facilitate what I love
Yeah.
doing. And I get to go with my family, have moments outside of that facilitation that I get to spend with them. And I get to watch them engaging in what I do professionally. And it's just this reciprocal joy field. And so, yeah, I feel really appreciative. I feel really grateful um, that I'm able to do that, that I'm able to have these
Mm.
experiences of like worlds colliding, worlds combining, just yeah, having my family able to witness me in my work and getting to witness them receiving it, and then all of the other things that happen in between. So it feels quite balanced. So I think that that's probably, yeah, the highlight, or what I'm really, we're I know this is going to be released later, but we're in August right now. Summer is winding down, and so I think that's a big
Yeah.
thing I'm taking with me from this summer.
Mhm. That's beautiful. And I remember when you shared with me when you returned from that event, and um like the richness of the conversation we had around that. And one of the things about it that really feels like touched me in a special place is the intentionality you had around um blending your personal and your professional life, and the opportunities that you co-created with your husband to have him and Sedona there to experience it. And then like really thinking about, we're feeling into what you shared about, like it was joyful because you were there with this collective energy of friends that you had left behind, and you're reunited with them. But you mentioned grief too.
Mm.
And that's just it. Like both can exist in our world and we can honor them both. Um so there are some layers, or I think you use this term, not in this conversation, but in a conversation before, around the complexities of joy.
Yeah, like the word nuance, I think complexities, I think like the nuance is here too for me. Yeah, that was such, I mean, that I think that trip, I mean, there's a few things there for me. One, there's just been something about this move that I've really tried to not view it as a like picking up and putting it down, but rather seeing it as an expansion of like network and community and capacity. And, I can still hold those friendships with this season and with this version of me now, as long as it feels like that's supportive and, uplifting and enlivening. And anyways, but yeah, it really struck me how much grief there was in that experience, just really within all of the joy. And it does remind me, I mean, it just feels so human. It feels so human. And I think in talking about personal and professional and like that, those unique weekends of blending that I get, and then just holding joy and holding grief and just this full spectrum of human experience. I mean, I think we all really do deserve more and more spaces to show up as our whole selves, and our whole selves include the whole range of human emotion and experiences. And so I do I do feel like, when we think about joy, we have these definitions of like what that looks like and what that means. And a lot of it has been fed to us or given to us, or we've been conditioned by assumptions, expectations, what we're taught from our families, our society, from media, from beyond. And so I feel a project in my lifetime, and one that I certainly encourage others to go on, is to just not making those assumptions and really getting granular about what joy means to them, what joy, where joy might exist that would be unexpected, how joy can exist in every moment, as well as, you know, what else is what is just inherently folded into that experience of joy. And a lot of the time it is grief,
Yeah.
or it's gratitude, or our rage or our fear, or there's just so much that's existing alongside it, because human experience is not one thing. Human emotion is not um, simple and neat and tidy. It's all of what we've experienced and what we know, and all of that's coming in to and existing simultaneously at the same time from moment to moment. So yeah, there's complexity there, there's nuance there. And I think the complexity and nuance of naming our experiences, or even just allowing ourselves to feel our experiences, I really think that that's where real authenticity and vulnerability and like life
Yeah.
lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that, in terms of even like recognizing that the whole range of emotions are necessary as a part of living. Like we weren't meant to just experience one emotion. Um, and in the thing about, I love what you said about expansion and being able to still hold those relationships, because there's so many times when something like moving to a new city, moving to a new job, moving to a new home, whatever that transition may be in our lives, with it also comes some letting go of something we were holding on to that was in that space that we are currently transitioning from as we step into the new one. Something, the way we related to a specific thing or place or group of people is going to shift, and sometimes
Mhm.
that's the very thing that makes us not want to make say yes to the transition, because we're afraid of what we might lose there. And
Mm.
so you recognizing that you just get to expand that from where you are. And here's the part that's also beautiful to me, like that feels really yummy, is that you got to go back and revisit it. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't necessarily what it used to be, right? Because you've all evolved, you all are a different version of yourselves from when you
Mhm.
were there before. But to hear how you were able to go back and have a good time and really enjoy each other's company, um, is what
Yeah.
matters. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a both and there, as you were reflecting that back to me with I think it was both. I mean, I think there's an acknowledgement that what was here is not existing in the same way. Change, evolution, these things are inevitable. And there's just a spirit of that. There's a part of that. There's an essence of what that chapter was about that is indestructible, that will always be with me, that will always be with us. And so I think it's both recognizing that just because change has occurred, maybe that thing or that ideal or that beautiful experience um, isn't over. It still lives within us. So there's that And um, there's something new available to us. There's so much that was new and alive that was available to me, and going back there, just like, I absolutely, and it was really, I mean, that experience of going back to released something in me. It allowed me to let go of something too, because I feel a distinct shift in myself, just going back and grieving again and feeling joy again, and noticing what's new here and what still resonates, like noticing all of that. And now
Mm.
coming back to where we live now, which is Columbus, Ohio, I feel like the past few weeks since I've been back here, I've allowed myself to be present and emotionally engaged in a different way, or maybe more fully, because I had that opportunity, or that recognition of going back and then coming to where we are now. But we've moved quite a bit. My husband and I have moved quite a bit since knowing each other, and so I think each time, yeah, transition is hard, and I think it can be hard not to rush through it or numb through it, but if we can stay present and alive and with the experience of it, there's just, I think it creates so much space within us, through the hardness and through the change. Yeah,
Mm.
there's always something new. There's always something new to learn through transition, and we've had a lot of that. So
Yeah,
feels like
you
a friend.
a lot of a lot of time in a van, right?
We did. We lived in Atlanta. We met and got married. Well, we got married in North Georgia mountains, but we lived in Atlanta for quite a while, and then I mean, I left my corporate training and development job for ethical reasons, and then his entire department was dissolved at the news station he worked for in Atlanta, and we had a van. We had already been converting the van, and our lease was up. So yeah, we went on the road for a little over 5 months,
Mhm.
and traveled in a self-sufficient vehicle during the pandemic, and yeah, 26 states, 20 national parks. And then we
Ooh,
ended up landing in West Michigan. So yeah, we've moved quite a bit,
that's
quite rapidly.
fascinating. That sounds like a fascinating adventure. I don't know that I knew that you were already converting. Well, tell me more. I'm so curious about that. When you said we were already converting the van, what do you mean by converting it?
Yeah, it was my uncle's van, and it's not, people may have some idea of what van life is and have seen the Instagram version of the vans. It was not that. It was a 2004 Econoline that my uncle passed away, and so we inherited the van, and it was already kind of a sleeper van, but we wanted to and this is before we had a child. We wanted to put a bed in it. We wanted it to be something that we could really just travel to festivals in. And yeah, just it's such a nice thing to have a vehicle like that. I mean, anyone with a camper or anything,
Mm.
you don't have to worry about a hotel or an Airbnb. You just
Yeah.
kind of go. So we knew we wanted that. We had the van. We were already, we had removed the flooring. We had put new flooring down. We were building a bed. We were building a little quote unquote kitchen in it.
Wow.
So we were already doing that. And so just the timeline got a little crunched unexpectedly. And yeah, we lived in it. We lived in it for
That
five and
sounds
a half
cool.
months.
Sounds cool. What an
We
adventure.
didn't live in it. I'm sorry. Let me correct myself, because this is how I convinced my husband to do it. We didn't live in it. We lived out of it. We lived in the world. Uh, so yeah.
What's the difference between living in it and living in the world?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so I think when I first brought this idea up, my husband, who's a big fan of indoor plumbing, and,
Me?
was
Yeah.
was not. I mean, he was not into the idea, and he's like, I don't want to live in a van, and the living that we were doing. I mean, we were sleeping in the van. right? We were sleeping in the van. We were traveling from place to place in the van. We had a really great setup for drive-in movies in the van. We were doing some things in the van. We were getting dressed in the van. Um, but really, I mean, we were mostly cooking out of the van. We were living out of the van. We were experiencing our lives out of the van, and in the world, and engaging with our environment, and a lot of that was natural environment, but some of that also was, our errand days, where we went to the laundromat and we went to the grocery store, and we whatever we did, we both weren't working at that time.
Yeah.
um, I was working a little bit, but whatever projects or reading, we just mostly were outside in nature at parks and in different cities that we had never experienced. And so we were existing in those environments more than any kind of inward structure environment. And I think we've really taken that with us. I'm actually putting this together in this moment. I had a recognition. We were going on a bike ride here in Columbus recently, and my husband was riding in front of me, and he just reach out and like touch a tree, and reach out and touch this. And I also we were not good people in the pandemic to be around. I touched I touched things, but I just had this recognition of something that I loved about us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that we really exist where we are. Like, we really dig in. And people have said that, like, when we lived in Michigan, people would say, I've lived here my whole life and I haven't even gone up to the UP, the Upper Peninsula, and you all have gone twice. And I think that that's what we've taken from van life, both of us, is that we just, yeah, like exist, like really exist with where we are.
Mm.
Um, like home maybe carries a different connotation, or like place carries a different connotation. It's just like, oh, this is where we are, let's be here. um let's make it cozy. So I do think that then that's the differentiation. Like, we're not living in
Gotcha.
this, like we're living in our reality, in our
Mm.
world.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, wherever you are, be all here, right?
Yeah,
Seems to be the way that you've been living.
yeah.
And yeah, and I can't say that I've had the desire to like hit the road and see where we land. Never thought about the sleeping in the van and all of those things, because I too like indoor plumbing and all of those things. So getting up during the night and all of those are the things that's going through my head. But as far as the other, like, however, the other aspects of really like experiencing the land and the people and the places that you are, that I'm here for. I am
Mm.
for. And you reminded me that UP was on my list of places to visit that I still haven't. I heard the waterfalls are really beautiful there. Um, I think it's maybe an 8-hour drive from here, because we looked it up one time to see about making it a road trip and just seeing what we discover on the way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and thinking about experiencing it and really being present, it brings me to, I think that's a good segue into what we wanted to explore today, which was around sobriety as a somatic experience.
Yeah.
And and before we get into it, I just want to share a little bit about how we got here. And I've just recently learned a new term and discovered that I am what you call sober curious. um, I've been playing with this idea of what life would be like without alcohol. And I get that there are different layers and levels and types of sobriety, but I'm thinking specifically of alcohol. And for a variety of reasons. One, I drink because I enjoy the flavors of what I'm drinking, and I enjoy holding the glass of what I'm drinking. And so, like, that whole experience. However, I don't enjoy having a buzz of any kind. I don't enjoy that feeling, that experience. And quite frankly, I don't always enjoy um, I don't always enjoy other people when they're inebriated, depending on how they, how they manage their alcohol. And also, as I don't know if it's related to my hormones or what, but I also noticed that my body doesn't metabolize alcohol the same way as it used to. So I have to be extra careful about how I consume, when I consume, what I consume in order to avoid having that buzz. And so I've really been, um, and then I also have a lot of complex emotions and relationship around the impact that alcohol has had in my life, with people, through people I care about, the harm that's been done, the physical ailments that show up later, um, the times that trust has been broken when someone's under the influence, all of these different things have shown up in ways that I don't enjoy. And so I'm really on this journey of discovering what choices I need to make for me to make
Mm,
sure that I am tending to my own needs and atmosphere and enhancing my own quality of life and noticing what role alcohol plays in that. And I want to go on record as saying I have not made a choice, like a full body decision to say that I will never drink again. And so I want to be clear that that's not what I'm saying either. Anyway, not even knowing that somehow you and I ended up on a conversation around sobriety, and that led us to you sharing about your consideration around it being like a somatic experiencing and how that tied into you choosing joy for you.
mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And um, yeah, I loved a lot of what you said, and it may come back up in my response, but here we go. So, um, yeah, sobriety. I believe sobriety is a somatic experience. And as you said, sober curious. And I don't always feel that way. But when you said sober curious, I said, well, I'm sober curious too, even though I've been technically sober from alcohol for 6.5 years. That is what I am. I am sober, maybe like period, or sober, comma, curious. And so that's here for me. I also, and you also mentioned this, there's nuance again with how we define sober and what that means, and there's a whole spectrum of experiences along that for people. For myself, I often say chosen sobriety or joyful sobriety, but reclaiming my joy and reclaiming celebration and presence and
Mhm.
enjoyment, all of that has been a massive part of my sobriety experience.
Mhm.
I think that there's just a lot of messaging. I mean, there's a lot of like nonverbal, verbal. I mean, there's just a lot of messaging and conditioning around alcohol. From the time I was a child, in magazine ads or on TV or in movies, you get the idea that this is how we relate to each other as adults. This is what enjoyment means. This is what play means
Mhm.
once you become an adult or of a legal drinking age. Honestly, for most of us, probably before. For me, before legal drinking age. I feel like that's just that's many of us. But yeah, we get messaging around this is how we do joy. This is how we do play. This is how we socialize as adults.
Mhm.
Um, and I fully took in that messaging. Sex and the City, for one, was very impactful in my life. And like, this is how we connect with girlfriends, and this is,
Yeah.
and this is we brunch, and and this is fancy, and this is glamorous, and um, there's just so much around it. And so I fully subscribed or ascribed to that this is how we relate.
Yeah.
And I think it was convenient because for me, there was a little social anxiety there, and it allowed me to numb that social anxiety, or it almost allowed me to create some different caricature of myself too that I found more acceptable or smooth or fun or whatever it was for me. And so yeah, I drank for many, many years socially, and then socially became a little bit too much. So I never really drank alone, but I drank a little bit too much when I was out, and so there was a lot of shame around that. And I know
Mhm.
in one of our previous conversations we talked about this idea of faux vulnerability,
Yeah.
or like unchosen vulnerability. And so I'd have these really vulnerable moments, and I didn't have full agency in them. And so it felt like something was being taken away from me. And that led to a lot of shame. That led to a lot of shame. And that just built and built and built. I bartended for 11 years. Like, alcohol was a big part of my life, but not really in a way that anyone might look in and say, oh, she has a problem.
Right.
And so for me, my healing journey, really, I'm going to call it my healing journey, my transformation, my whatever, the beginning of where I am today
Yeah.
really began with a desire for physical change and being unhappy with how I looked physically. I had, bartending for many years. It's a very active job. And then I moved into a more sedentary job. I was actually in sales for a while before I went into corporate training and development. And so a lot more sedentary, a lot more sitting, and the weight, especially the sugar weight from alcohol,
Yeah.
really caught up with me.
Mhm.
And so I chose to do a fitness challenge, which included a nutrition and challenge, which included not drinking alcohol for 6 weeks, which was the longest sequential time that I had not drank in.
Yeah.
And that was a really big shift for me. And I think that's where my sober curiosity began. And I shifted into a different kind of era and started really being more intentional with the way I was living my life, and really began questioning, um, what did I feel supported by in my life? What was supportive to me? What did I feel expanded me? What did I feel opened me? What did, like, who was I?
Mhm.
I was in this real, yeah, just maybe it was my Saturn return from an astrology perspective, but I was just really coming
Mhm.
into my own again, right around 30. And so I moderated for a while, and then I just had this recognition that when I would drink, it just didn't feel like it didn't feel like there was a point. Like, I was really moderating. It didn't feel like there was a point. Like, I always wanted more. And then because I wanted more, I was really unkind to myself about wanting more. And I was not a friend to myself. Was
Yeah.
not a friend to myself when I was drinking. And then right alongside that, I was really coming into that curiosity piece, which was like, why am I doing this? Do I actually enjoy this? Like, do I actually need this? Is this supporting me to become, or not even to become, is this supporting me to be,
Mhm.
um, like, who I am, and who I want to be, and how I want to feel in my body, because I was definitely not feeling in my body very good. and and paired with the negative self-talk, there just seemed like there was no point. And I chose to quit drinking alcohol. My spouse was really supportive,
Mhm.
made that decision alongside me, which of course is very helpful.
Yeah.
um and then I think just since then, the questioning and the curiosity is continued. Like, why does, for adults, alcohol have the premium on joy? Why does it have the premium on play? Why is this depressant what we use to celebrate important moments, instead of just remembering and being fully, like, present in these special celebratory moments? Um, what is it? I used to think that drinking, or not even just drinking, like socializing with alcohol, like these, like trying to replicate these pictures of ever cheersing, and like this, this, this version or definition of joy. Like, I felt like I spent so much of my life striving for that.
Mhm.
And there was something in me that recognized that was possible. And I started recognizing the real contradiction. And, well, why would I take something that is numbing to my experience in
Mm,
these moments where I really want to be present. And then I recognized that really what alcohol would do for me is it allowed me to tolerate the things that I didn't really enjoy, or the people that I didn't really enjoy, or the
yeah.
activities that weren't really enriching me on a deep level. It allowed me to sit and be through those things and almost like manufacture joy instead of really truly cultivating it and sensing what brought me um yeah, those feelings of elation, joy, gratitude, connection, all of those things. And so I've just spent the past 6.5 years really dialing into what actually helps me feel alive and human and joyful and um, playful. And
Mhm.
yeah, how do I actually want to celebrate life? What do I actually want to celebrate?
Mhm. You said so much there.
I did.
So much. Why does I was trying to take notes, so and I was present, but it was certain things that was landing that I want to revisit even in my own alone time, but that I also wanted to, call out. Manufactured joy, faux vulnerability. Why does alcohol have the premium on joy and play? Right? And even speaking to the images, like the visual cues, like it makes me think about that. What is that? A picture says more than 1,000 words, right? And and um and just even thinking about the images, like for me, when I think about how it's glamorized, even with smoking. Like I used to smoke cigarettes,
Right.
and growing up, like I like looking at the images on old black and white movies with the glove and the long cigarette, right? Because substance is substance, right? So nicotine is a substance too that can cause harm and become addictive in many ways. Like the glove, that was so glamorous to see them smoking, and even from Chivalry, the fact that the guy would hold out a case of cigarettes when you come into someone's home. They'd have cigarettes to offer their guest, right? And you have a cocktail and the whole bar is set up. And I thought the bar setup, and I still do. I find the bar setup really pretty. The pretty glasses, the decanters, all of
Mm,
those things are the things that I enjoy. And recognizing that I like even the glass I'm holding today, I love the holding of the glass and I think the colors are fun. Um, However, there's water in here. And so who says that I
mm,
have to, if I like the beauty and glamour of the glass and the experience of holding it, that doesn't dictate what I get to pour into it. Like I
mm,
can pour whatever I choose in it and still have the experience. And so thinking about manufactured joy, or even what you mentioned about numbing because of social anxiety or adulting, like this is what we get to do as adults. Um,
mm,
we get to meet for cocktails. And I'm going back to manufactured joy again because I realized at some point that I didn't want to necessarily go to an event where the activity itself, the main one, was centered around having cocktails. And so
mm,
just noticing how many times we say, well, let's meet for drinks. Like not let's not connect. And we have
mm,
to be at a place that serves drinks that we
mm,
indulge in. But even the invitation is around, let's meet for drinks. Um,
mm.
let's come have a drink with me. Um,
Yeah.
all of these different things, and just looking at how much the imagery, how much we see that influences our choices, even when we're not conscious of it.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
I know, like, even, my husband and I, whenever we would go to Vegas, we would visit his aunt and uncle there, and they were a fun couple and, like, in their 90s or so, and but one of the rituals, his aunt, we did not have dinner, not without having a cocktail. It was built into the ritual for dinner, like, "Okay, we're gonna have a cocktail, and then I'll serve dinner."
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. And so I love what you said about reclaiming celebrations and reclaiming joy.
Yeah. There's something, so you said in there, oh, there's a few things. Like I think ritual is a big one I want to come back to, and the reclamation as well. But you said, not like you said, let's meet for a drink, not let's meet for connect. But that's what we're wanting, right?
Yeah.
Like we're wanting connection,
Mhm,
and what we're enjoying about those moments.
mhm.
If we're really enjoying those moments, it's not that we have a buzz, it's that we're sitting somewhere with our friends, having conversation, or, we're celebrating a really significant, we don't have many rites of passage
Mm,
in this, um, you know, there's many different cultures within this country, but we don't have that many rites of passage.
mhm.
It doesn't seem that way in where we are in the US. And so maybe we're celebrating a rite of passage, and like really what's enjoyable is the connection. And
Yeah,
so imagine if we can get to that level of real, vulnerable, authentic connection of
yeah.
our own accord, like how much can that really deepen our experience and tell us something important about who we're with or what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I love that so much. I'm actually sprucing it up right now because it's making its Ohio debut, but I have an interactive art installation called the Zone of Authenticity. And part of it, there's many things to engage with. Um, but one of the things that people can engage with are these 7 different notebooks with different prompts around self-love or desire, just writing a truth about yourself, about authenticity, about fear. There's just a few different prompts, and
Mm.
that installation won art prize in 2023. So I created it in 2023, and I hadn't looked at those notebooks until June when I was getting ready to take it to Playthink in Kentucky. And as I was reading through people's responses, which are anonymous, but you could tell by handwriting and content, there's children sharing in there, there's teenagers, there's young adults, there's elderly folks sharing, and you can just tell that it's very intergenerational range spectrum of responses. And it was so striking to me, and just around authenticity, that there is so much new, like authenticity is about nuance, it's about unique expression. And yet, like when we really get down to the core of saying what we want, it's connection. Like it's connection, and it's being seen and being loved for who we are as we are, really, in any given moment. And so I think what to me is really powerful about like reclaiming joy and even reclaiming vulnerability, like making choices around vulnerability, and
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to soften into real, authentic, conscious
Yeah.
connection, is that when we're able to do that, it's unlocking something in us that says, I can do this, I can show up authentically, vulnerably in front of these people, and
Mhm.
be received by them, and be received by them, and maybe be loved by them, and be seen. And if not, maybe they're not my people. And so maybe that gives me permission to move on and find people that do see me and
Yeah.
appreciate my awkwardness and appreciate these
Yeah.
little, you know, quirks, and my way of communicating or whatever it is. And so I think when we are saying, let's meet for drinks, like really what's underneath that is, I want to connect with you. Like I
Yeah.
want to connect with you. And I think that's so beautiful and important. And I think it's even more powerful when we really choose that and choose the way we're doing it. I often say when people are sober curious, I say like, prepare yourself for it to be awkward. it's going to be awkward. Like we're
Yeah.
so used to having that shield and that safety blanket of, and I used to be a smoker too, of a drink in the hand or a cigarette in the hand or whatever it is, or,
Yeah.
um, like we're so used to having that it does feel like you feel naked,
Mhm.
and the connection might not happen right away because you're trying to find the thread of connection. You're trying to find a way to find something that connects you with this other person, and that can be awkward because it doesn't happen as immediately
Yeah.
as whatever our conditioning wants to tell us.
Here's
So
where
yeah.
I know the connection was broken for me at different times, right? There
Yeah.
have been times over the years where, um, and you mentioned this during another conversation we had where alcohol is the only like suppressant that you have to explain. People expect you to explain why you're not taking it. And that to me breaks the connection in a sense because now you're not hearing me. So, for example, if I say no, thank you when you offer me a drink, it's like not just a why not, but it's like, oh, we just have one. And so the peer pressure is just as real in adulthood as it is when we're younger. And that's something that people don't often want to talk about. We'll say these kids are having peer pressure, but it's important for us to recognize when we're in places where when you're saying no to something or you're advocating for a choice that you've made for yourself and it doesn't require an explanation. You can offer one if you choose to.
Mhm.
How many people, like just noticing how many people, instead of accepting and honoring your choice, try to convince you to make a new choice that aligns with what they want you to do.
Mhm.
Um, and so that happens too, and so there's shame that happens on both ends. That's like possible shame. There's the shame of the full vulnerability, like where that you mentioned earlier, where you share something and then you're not sure if that was something you really wanted to share um in that moment, or if being inebriated gave you courage to share it. Like, was that something you really wanted to express at that with this group of individuals, right? Or was that something that
Mhm.
you may have wanted to share with one person that was there? And here's the opportunity because you now
Mhm.
have the courage and you've been exposed. And now
Mhm.
that also becomes a part of whatever happens during that exchange can also become a part of your identity or the story people tell about who you are gets framed around what happened that night, what was said, what was done, all of these different things. And then there's the shaming when you don't participate, or the
Yeah.
guilting trying to make you feel like you're wrong for your choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I've certainly experienced that. And then like there's something there too around, liquid, people say liquid courage. You just mentioned courage, and um like maybe that is something that you wanted to share with that group of people. But imagine, let's say we're sitting at a bar and it's loud and I tell you that, just let me make that I'm struggling to find time for myself in parenthood.
Hmm.
I'm struggling to find balance. Like, imagine I share that. That's something that maybe I do really want to share with this group of people, but how much more nourishing and supportive would that exchange be in a different context when it
Hmm.
really does feel chosen and everyone can be
Right.
present to that share versus like, oh, my drink's almost done, or oh, like, where are we going next? Or, oh,
Mhm.
so I think that there's something really beautiful there about vulnerability or expressing a side of ourselves that we want to express, or something about our lives that we really want to express to people, but how much more expanding can it be when we do that from a sober conscious place. And like
Yeah.
I think about um like there is a wildness in me. There is a wild, free spirit in me,
Mhm.
that certainly came out when, bold, confident, like that came out of me when I was drinking. And so when I initially quit, I was so ashamed and I was so fearful of that part of myself,
Mhm.
that I tried to push her away and just be very responsible, very put together. And I like curled my curls and I, like I just tried to mask and be this very controlled, put together human being. And so that was another evolution for me, was to reintegrate that part of myself and find healthy, non-harmful, conscious ways of embracing like that really true, bold, wild, free version of myself that I certainly still embody as a sober person, just not through alcohol. I mean, through dance and through movement and through, I mean, specific ways of moving my body and just through the way that I engage in the world. And so I'd say like that wild part of me loves a certain kind of music that I
Yeah.
can put on. That part of me loves going off trail when I'm hiking and like finding my way and like frolicking through the forest, you know? And so that, right? Like getting outside in nature, putting my feet on the earth, being barefoot most of the time, dancing, all of those ways of embracing my wildness contain so much less harm, both, I mean, really, even just from like a physical, biological, I'm not putting that substance into my system perspective, but many, many other ways in terms of looking at harm reduction, that still lives in me. And so I think sobriety is so fun and hard and is full of curiosity because it's like, oh, this is here. Is
Mhm.
this me? Is this a part of me? Like how might I bring her out? How might I play with her?
Mhm.
How might I integrate her instead of only letting that vulnerable or wild or whatever it is part of myself exist when I'm shit faced or when I've had even two drinks or whatever it is. And so I think it's just this invitation into really questioning like, who am I? How do I want to show up for myself? Like, how do I want to be in the world? And like, how much can I really open,
Yeah.
um, without liquid courage, just with the courage that is the well of courage that exists within us, whether we have a drink or not?
Yeah. And so, what are some of the things that you've discovered doing reclaiming the way your celebration or even recognizing how joy feels in your body?
Mm. How does joy feel in my body? I mean, like whole heart opening. I mean, there is something to this like existing in my environment, like touching things, noticing things, like senses on. And that's why I say it's a somatic experience. You're just alive, right?
Mhm.
And noticing and like, wow, look at that tree. Look at the color of green that those leaves are. Like that's a moment for joy. Like letting that be enough is such a big thing. And then in terms of reclaiming, I think socializing and reclaiming celebration. Um, One thing that I loved that I miss that I'm recreating here in our home in Ohio, but in Michigan was the first place we moved to sober, and
Okay.
the community we cultivated really reflected that. And so everybody knew, I mean, we didn't have to tell anyone don't bring alcohol here. And so many people in our network like ended up quitting drinking because just their friends were never, and we had the best parties. Like somebody comment, I'm going to refer people to this podcast to comment and confirm this. We had the best parties, and it was because of the music. It's because there's this like embodying and modeling like freedom and authenticity that was there. I love making good playlists. It was always a potluck and people are bringing good food. And so it was like really celebrating being together through, yeah, like music, food, all of the same things, just without that numbing agent. And so I think about our parties and just that people knew like, bring a LaCroix, or bring a fun bottle of NA spirits, or bring, a mushroom coffee, or bring whatever. And so we're all like sharing different kinds of drinks. That's the funny question. You don't drink? Yes, I do drink. I drink way more things than I drank when I drink alcohol. And so yeah, like reclaiming, like partying, and really, oh God, we've just had so many good ones where, yes, there are awkward moments and there are silences as we're finding our footing and as we're co-regulating, right? Co-regulating takes time. So anyways, I think about parties. And then when I think about like connecting with my friends,
Mhm.
what I would rather do now is, dance with them, or do a yoga class, or have a breathwork session, or paint, or just sit and be with each other. And when we can just sit and be with each other, do an activity without alcohol, we really find what we enjoy in the activity and in one another.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just, I think, reclaiming presence too. Like, what are we celebrating here?
Yeah.
How are we celebrating it? Are we celebrating it with, I think about blessing ways. I've had a couple blessing ways for friends before they became mothers. And,
Mhm.
we sit there and we love on we love on the soon to be mom, and we share
Mhm.
gifts, and we share stories, and we, um, maybe we make something, maybe we craft something. I don't know.
Mhm.
There's just so much more that becomes available to us when we don't just assume this is how we celebrate. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, that's what's coming up for me. Like I create spaces. I've created an entire modality around a movement modality, my own way of facilitating intuitive movement and freeform dance, which is like at the bottom of it, a way to really gently flow into dancing freely without alcohol.
Yeah.
like um by finding what feels good, and by noticing what feels good to us, and noticing what feels alive in us, and then just deepening that, and deepening that, and deepening that relationship with
Mhm.
self and sensation and others.
Yeah. I'm
Let
so
me know if I
looking
answered.
forward to us collaborating with one of your freeform, like with one of your movement sessions and doing creating something together. That's going to be fun to to curate, fun to facilitate. I'm so here for it. And you you mentioned something too, like you mentioned free form movement, which like for me, there's I am not like the most I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a dancer, although I do enjoy dance. And like one of my friends and I, we FaceTime each other and do pick a song and we dance for that song. And then we say so long. And that brings us both joy, and our bodies really, really appreciate those moments. And it's not about coordinated movements or who is the best dancer. And so how does that show up in your free form or in your experience as dance, because you've taught dance, you've that's been a huge part of your life.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, dance has been a massive part of my life, even through the fog, and even through all of these different seasons. Dance has been a constant since I was about 8 years old.
Mhm.
And so mostly competitive and performance dance. And so I had a lot of unraveling of perfectionism and performativity and competitiveness. I had to do a lot of unraveling of dance for myself so that it could be something that I could be in process with, and that could be for me, really for me again. And so I think creating this free form dance, like you'll see ecstatic dance, 5 rhythms. There's so many different influences to what I do with dance, but basically I taught dance for a long time. My husband and I met in my hip hop dance class in Atlanta, and I just had a recognition that, and it's just what you said. It's, oh, I'm not a dancer,
Mhm.
right? So I was teaching choreography. I was choreographing, teaching choreography, performing dance, and I just had this recognition that I didn't want to prescribe movement onto other bodies that was resonant for me, um, and have it create a divide, or have it create a less than, or have it create a dynamic. And so really, I mean, free-form dance to me is kind of unraveling that teacher student dynamic a little bit too, and just empowering people to find the ways of moving that feels really nourishing to them and enlivening to them and
Yeah.
empowering to them. And so I started really deconstructing, and I love ecstatic dance as modality and freeform dance. And I also recognize that's a really hard place to access for a
Mm,
lot of people. And so, what I do is I have this extended time for really co-regulation, time for really like partnering with the mind and partnering with curiosity, so that we can drop into the body and find what feels good and build our body's vocabulary, and then come into freeform dance from this co-regulated, awakened, curious place, um, because there's so much there for us. I mean, we are. This is organic intelligence, with you, which you and I have both had some experience with. But Steve Hoskinson, the founder of organic intelligence, says we are the singing and dancing species. I mean,
mm,
that's part of a longer quote that I love, but we are the singing and dancing species. This is in our DNA from
mm,
hundreds and thousands of years, and yet, I mean, I could speculate on why, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go to my like countercultural place in this moment. Um, but we've been convinced that we have to be skilled or
mm,
good at things, and that's how we receive enjoyment, joy, fulfillment, satisfaction from them. But that's just not true. There's so much that's available to us
mm.
when we can just be open and be curious and let ourselves show up messily or weirdly or uncoordinated or whatever, awkwardly. Yeah, like whatever it is. There's so much available to us when we can allow ourselves to be in process. And that's in dance and movement, that's in life, that's in art making, that's in singing, that's in all of these expressive,
Right.
formats. And so I don't even know where I began, but that feels important to name, is that you don't have to be a dancer to receive from dance. It's part of who we are. And so
Yeah.
I think reconnecting people with that, and creating spaces where people can show up wholly and fully and consciously and
Yeah.
soberly. Even though I don't call them sober events, they're not. There's just not, alcohol there. All of those things are really important, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Sounds yummy and
Thanks.
magical and
It
beautiful.
is. It is. It is magical. It
Wow,
is.
this time went by so quickly. So, um, you've shared many ways that you've tapped into your joy. And I just want to ask once more, are there some, aside from dance or maybe even ways of dance, what are some like simple ways that you access joy?
Yeah.
It can feel really accessible for someone who thinks they don't have time.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing too, is I think I used to believe, and this was a big part of drinking too, I used to believe that I had to go there or do this to experience that,
Mhm.
experience whatever was projected to me on a movie screen or a TV screen or through a magazine or whatever. And so I think recognizing that it's within and just creating the space to cultivate it, or notice what brings it, or even just notice what's here for me, whether it be joy, grief, both, anything in between. And I think as well, just being in the wellness, right, and like the wellness world for quite a while, we there's another belief that comes, that's we have to have an hour, we have to have a half day, we have to have, hello my love,
Mhm. Hi.
still on here, to have a whole weekend. We have to have 3 hours. We have to have 1 hour. We have to have a morning routine, a perfect routine, um, in order to like be well, to feel joy. And so I think it's less, the practicality for me is less around what to do, because it's different for everyone. It's more around what time do you have? Right. I'm a mom to a toddler. I'm a business owner. I don't
Mhm.
always have that time. Um, but maybe I do have a minute, or maybe I do have 3 minutes, or maybe I have 5 minutes or 20 minutes. And so it's really being conscious of what creates that
Yeah.
awakening, or enlivening, or what creates that feeling of aliveness and joy within me. And
Mhm.
how can I do that with 1 minute of time, or 3 minutes of time, or 5 minutes of time? And micro practices are really important to me, because I think that finding joy in the spaces in between is what, we string those together, and that becomes a joyful life.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I just created something around this. I just created something around this called Unstuck, and it is about shifting states, shifting from fogginess or mental looping or stagnancy, and shifting into something new, shifting in, and whether that's joy or, again, aliveness. Um, you know, all of those practices are 5 to 15 minutes, and they're just little ways to access nourishment, and access curiosity, and access creativity and playfulness, and all of these things that are within, if we just give them a little space to breathe, even if it's just a few seconds or a minute or two. So that's
Beautiful.
a practical bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'll be sure to put a link to access your Unstuck offering in the show notes as well. And so, lastly, I believe that joy and gratitude are partners. And so, what are also believe that what we appreciate appreciates. What are you appreciating in this moment?
Mm. Well, the first thing that came was just space in my life to connect, like space in my life to
Mm,
have this opportunity to be here with you.
mm,
Um, I'm really appreciating, this is really alive for me, and I don't know how much joy was modeled for me growing up. I mean, I know it was modeled for me, but maybe not in the most healthy
mhm.
or sustainable ways.
Yeah.
And I feel really grateful for my partner, my husband, Jay, who just walked in the door.
Mm,
So his presence is here now, but I'm just so grateful for a partner that understands the importance of modeling joy,
mm,
not from a place of inauthenticity, but really modeling joy and what it is to be joyful and let your guard down,
mm.
modeling that for a 3 year old, almost 3 year old. She'll be 3 in September.
Wow.
Um, but I feel really grateful for him and for that and for us. And yeah, just a life that I get to fully exist in.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, grateful for the people that support me to live in that way. Yeah,
mm,
and myself, and grateful for myself for being curious and opening up and just letting the good in.
mm. Thank you. Thank you so much for your transparency, for your truth, for your presence, all of that. Just thank you for your you-ness.
Thank you for your you.
You-ness. Yeah. Again, I'll put the link to your offering for those who are interested in experiencing Unstuck into the show notes. And yeah, this has been good. This has been good. Lots of takeaways for me. Of course, I always take lots of notes, and really thanking all of you all for listening to yet another episode of She Chose Joy. Whatever served you, by all means, share it with someone else, or share it within yourself in your own reflection time. Because remember, your freedom lies within your decision to say yes to who you are, yes to what you want, and yes to what you stand for. So, will you stand for reclaiming what celebratory moments look like for you? Will you stand for being curious about when you feel most alive and most awakened? Will you stand for saying yes to true moments of connection?
Mm.
Don't forget to subscribe and share, and I will see you on the next episode. Be well.